Hello and welcome to Crypto Weeklies. Today in this video, we are going to analyze Bitcoin versus ETH, conduct machine learning based price forecast for Bitcoin ETH pair as well as USD pairs. None of the content is financial advice. Let's get started. This is the Bitcoin divided by ETH. This is price of BTC divided by price of ETH. That's why the numbers over here are in whole numbers. Price of Bitcoin is at around 109K. Price of ETH is at around $2,500. So that's why if you divide, roughly speaking, 100K divided by 25K, 100K divided by 2500, you would get number close to 42. So now as price of Bitcoin is above 108K, the number of ETH tokens available for one BTC are at around 43. Not too long ago, this number was in the lower tens. Almost Bitcoin has gained almost 4x from on its ETH pair. Back in December 2021, one Bitcoin could fetch only about 11 and a half ETH. Now at one point in late April 2025, that number was well over 50. So in the course of the bear market, Bitcoin outperformed ETH about somewhere between 4.5x and 5x. And towards the end of the bear market, as well as towards the early bull run, like in 2019, in the past cycle, Bitcoin tends to outperform ETH and other major cryptocurrencies when the attention in the crypto asset class is low. Now, only during the phases where there is an heightened attendance in the crypto asset class, where social media presence of major altcoins and ETH for that matter takes the center stage. That's when there are some brief periods where ETH outperformed Bitcoin, like it did from early 2020 from January till about December 2021. This time around, we haven't seen in major shift from Bitcoin to ETH. If you look at the ETHBTC pair, which is 1 divided by this, those number are in fraction. This pair denotes the amount of Bitcoin 1 ETH could fetch. So about 0.023. At one point, this was at around 0.078. Sorry, 0.0883. So almost the same, about four times more Bitcoin per ETH was available. Now, since that double or triple bottom that over a macro period that this pair achieved over here, this is ETHBTC. Since then, there is a rally back to the upside to the tune of the 20-week simple moving average and the 21-week exponential moving average, and that's where the rally met a lot of resistance. Those 20-week moving averages are at around 2.2, 0.02, again slightly under the current price, and 0.024. Those are the key levels to look for in terms of this pair going forward. The price of Bitcoin is still in an upswing above this green diagonal line, which Bitcoin has held as support since about October 2022. If you look at ETH from a similar perspective, ETH is telling a different story. That similar diagonal line, even though the angle of incidence for that line is much less steeper, that means the rally has more downside. Even if we consider that the slope of this line is much less steep than the Bitcoin's angle of incidence, that means Bitcoin has to do more to keep up with this green line than ETH because of the leniency on this line. Even after accounting for that, ETH has broken down from its diagonal support sometime in February 2025, has tried to gain back this green line as a and flip it back into support, but it's acting as a resistance so far from the April lows till now, the early July rallies that ETH has enjoyed. Nonetheless, the price of Bitcoin again at this point at around 109K, very close to the previous all-time high at around 111, 112K. The support at this juncture is somewhere between 92K and 95K. Those are the lower end of the simple moving averages, as well as the ascending diagonal line for Bitcoin, which held as a support since 2022. All in all, the Bitcoin's price action in terms of ETH, if you look at the amount of ETH available for one Bitcoin, if let's say we witness something similar in the later half of the post-halving year, like we did back in 2021 again, the drop kind of started in late 2019. This time around, it hasn't started in the pre-halving year or the halving year, or for the matter, first half of the post-halving year. The strength of Bitcoin against ETH this time around is quite surprising compared to the last market cycles. In the next half of the post-halving year, that is the last 6 months of 2025, if the similar story is in cards like it was back in from Jan 2021 till about May 2021, for fast forwarding 4.5 years later, per the machine learning model, the valuation of Bitcoin on ETH in favor of ETH, if there is a crash in favor of ETH, that means if ETH starts outperforming Bitcoin again, that could mean that Bitcoin on its USD pair is also rallying, but ETH is rallying more. In that scenario, the amount of ETH available for one BTC in this case is forecasted from 40 ETH per BTC. So for example, if Bitcoin goes to 200k, ETH goes to 5k. From that level to, if Bitcoin goes to 200k, ETH goes to 10k, somewhere under 10k. That's the forecast for this model. This is again a valuation forecast in terms of the pairs, not USD. So for USD forecast. So for example, if Bitcoin stalls out at around 150k, and if the pair bottoms at around 20, so the price of ETH in that scenario could be at around 7,500, somewhere between 7,000 and 7,500 per this machine learning based model. If we look at the risk associated with Bitcoin and ETH at this point, this is all of the content available for free on cryptoweeklies.com. At least this is the home page of the website. The chart that you saw is over here, Bitcoin ETH pair forecast. This is the sentiment analysis. Again, today the market is having a bullish bias. This is the Bitcoin and ETH risk normalized from 0 to 1 in increments of 20%, denoting how the prices are with respect to the 20-week simple moving average and how the risk levels are. Right now, this market cycle, especially since about late 2024, the risk associated with Bitcoin is higher than with ETH. That is because, again, this measures how the prices are moving in relation with 20-week simple moving average. And as ETH is underperforming Bitcoin throughout 2024 and 2025, the deviation from the price with respect to 20-week moving average is higher in the case of Bitcoin than in case of ETH. Right now, Bitcoin's on its own risk journey is at around 48% or 0.48 risk, whereas ETH is at around 0.42. In the larger scheme of things, both are in the moderate risk territory. The last iteration where Bitcoin kind of topped out in late November and early December 2024, in terms of risk levels back then, from the 20-week moving average, the risk was at around the highest at around 0.8. This time in May 2025, the risk kind of peaked at around 0.56. That was in, if we zoom it in, it was in late May of 2025. In that environment, the price of Bitcoin, again, you can see on that week, was close to that all-time high, that is at around 111 to 112k. So if we look at the in the grand scheme of things and try to postulate what could be the theoretical bull run peak for Bitcoin, this risk-based model does help to identify if we are closer to the peak or closer to the bottom. Right now, we are kind of in the no man's land. In terms of how Bitcoin and ETH are performing in 2025, this is the blue line denotes ETH's performance from year to date. Again, it's still negative 28%. At one point, it was negative 56%. Bitcoin also from the yearly open was down 20% when S&P was also down by about the same time in the first and second quarter of 2025, early second quarter of 2025. Now that we are in the third quarter of 2025, the year-to-date performance for Bitcoin is at around up by about 12%. All in all, if we look at The risk normalized for the entire asset class, at least the top 100 cryptos by market cap, the risk is at around 0.33. Bull market completion is only 33%. In terms of the narratives, right now Bitcoin holds the key to the market. Again, there are bullish sentiments, but mostly they get reflected in Bitcoin as the narrative. Word cloud is heavily geared to these two narratives. Apart from that, again, Chainlink is one major narrative. Again, we covered Chainlink at length over the past week. They have, I think, some staking related announcement. Not too sure. You could check at their own official website. All in all, if you look at Bitcoin versus ETH and do their own USD forecast and the regression analysis, Bitcoin, at least right now, it's saying that without a euphoria in the market in the next 6 months, the price could go theoretically to about 170k. If there is euphoria in the market, the 220k is theoretically possible. ETH on its other hand, per the machine learning based forecast, again without euphoria, it could go to about 4.2k. With euphoria, still about somewhere around lower $6,000 level is theoretically possible. Again, these are all machine learning based price forecast. Again, all available for free on cryptoweeklies.com. Not financial advice. All in all, if we were to take an estimated bull run peak for Bitcoin and ETH, Bitcoin theoretically could peak at around 262k, and in that environment, ETH could go as again, this is on its USD journey, could go at around 10k. But if using that valuation model, the peak for ETH in that scenario divided 260k by 20 is close to that 13k level. So with that, I would like to conclude the video. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please give us a like and subscribe, and hope to see you tomorrow. Thank you and have a nice day. Bye bye.